Namaste and welcome to the Vedanta Society of Greater Houston and our Bhagavad Gita class. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena gratitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitam Ritavarshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayinim Ambatvam Manusandadhami Bhagavad Gite Bhavadveshinim Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yatkripa Tamaham Vande Paramananda Madhavam. Om, O Mother Bhagavad Gita, we meditate on you who were made known to Partha by the Lord Narayana himself. You who were included in the Mahabharata by the ancient sage Vyasa. You, the goddess, who rains down the nectar of Advaita, non-dualism, in 18 chapters. You, the destroyer of relative existence. We worship Krishna, Lord of the world teacher, the son of Vasudeva, the supreme delight of his mother Devaki, and the destroyer of the demons Kamsa and Chanura. We adore that supremely blissful Madhava, by whose grace the mute are made eloquent, and the lame are enabled to cross over mountains. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat. Om peace, peace, peace be unto us all. So in our study of the Bhagavad Gita, we have come to the 16th chapter, and we are to begin on the 9th verse. Tonight, we have done verses 1 through 8. And so this is the chapter Devasura Vibhaga Yogo Nama Shodashodhyayaha, the 16th chapter, named the classification or the division of the divine and demonic attributes. So this is a chapter in which he describes those people, that is human characteristics, of those who have a divine nature and those who have a demonic nature. And so here he's talking about us, not of mythological characters, not of actual deities or incarnations of God or anything like that. He's talking about ordinary people, but those who have divine characteristics and those who have demonic. And so through the verses of this chapter, he elaborates on what those are. And so after setting out what he's going to say at the beginning of the chapter, then he elaborates the divine qualities, those qualities which are manifested in a person who has a spiritual nature. And now he's coming back and describing the qualities of one of a demonic nature. And so he says, I'll just read the verses 6 through 8, just the English, just to come up to speed with where we are to begin. In 6, he says, in this world there are only two kinds of created beings, the divine and the demonic. The divine has been spoken of elaborately. That is, he's already in the previous verses spoken elaborately of the divine qualities. Hear about the demoniacal from me, O son of Pritha. Neither do the demoniacal persons understand what is to be done and what is not to be done. That is, what you should do and shouldn't do, that they don't understand. Nor does purity or even good conduct or truthfulness exist in them, that those concepts they neither possess, nor do they appreciate, nor do they understand. They say that the world is unreal, it has no basis. And when they say that the world is unreal, here Sri Krishna is not speaking in the sense of the non-dual Vedantins who say that this world is real, Brahman alone is real. They mean that the world doesn't matter. It's unreal, meaning that who cares about anything? They say that the world is unreal, it has no basis. That is, it's not. The Vedantic view is that the world as we perceive it is unreal, but it's founded in Brahman. But those of demonic nature, they say the world has no reality, meaning it doesn't matter for anything, and it's not founded in anything. It's without a God. There is no God, and therefore there are no spiritual principles. It's born of mutual union brought about by passion. What other cause can there be? Such people ask. And so then we come to where we're to begin tonight in verse 9, continuing this line of thought about those of demonic nature or demoniacal nature, the same thing. It says, Etam drishtimavastabhya nashtatmanopabuddhayah prabhavantyugra karmanaha kshayaya jagato hitaha. So, etam drishtim avastabhya, holding this view, that which he's already described, that this world doesn't matter for anything, it's unreal, it's not founded in any higher reality, there is no God, etc. So holding to this view, etam drishtim avastabhya, nashtatmano alpabuddhya, those who are of degenerate nature, nashtatmanaha, that means who are destroyed selves, literally. Nashta, destroyed, atma, self. But it means those whose character is degraded, who are depraved. Alpa buddhayaha, whose understanding is very small, whose outlook on life is very small and insignificant. Prabhavanti ugra karmanaha kshayaya jagato hitaha. Ugra karmanaha, they're given to fearful action. Ugra means fearful, terrible. Ugra karmanaha, their actions are terrible. Prabhavanti kshayaya jagat ahitaha jagato kshayaya prabhavanti. So that means that these people who are ahitaha, who are harmful, they take birth, prabhavanti, they take birth, jagato kshayaya, for the destruction of the world. That is, for the destruction of society, for the destruction of civilization, destruction of culture, destruction of other people. So the running translation is, holding on to this view, which has been described already, these people who are of depraved character and poor intellect or poor understanding, who are given to fearful actions, terrible actions, and are harmful to others, take birth for the ruin of the world. So such people are bent on destruction. Not that they are so intellectually inclined that they think deeply about it, that they plan out, I'm here to destroy the world. No, but their actions are destructive of culture, destructive of the bonds of society, destructive of the bonds of family, destructive of traditions which hold societies together, etc. So they are bent on the destruction of the world. Again, not planning it out as such. It's just that their actions are such that they do that. They're people of fearful action, terrible actions, those who are criminal, those who are destructive, etc. So here, of course, he's speaking of the worst of the demonic character. So whenever we try to understand anything, it helps to understand something by understanding the extreme example of something. So the extreme good or the extreme bad, by understanding that, then we can understand the spectrum. But in order to understand the middle, those who are somewhere in the middle with some divine qualities, some or spiritual qualities, some demonic qualities, we have to understand the two extremes. So in this verse, he's giving the extreme, those who are of fearful action, that is criminal, destructive, terrible actions, bent on the destruction of society and culture and all that is good in humanity, etc. So people holding these views, again, the view that this world is insubstantial, that it's not rooted in anything spiritual, there is no God, etc. So then, coming to verse 10, he says, Kamamashritya dushpuram dambhamana madanvitaha mohad grihitva sadgrahan. I'm sorry. Mohad grihitva sadgrahan pravartante shuchivrataha. So kamamashritya, dushpuram kamamashritya, taking resort to unquenchable desire, dambha, vanity, that is showing off one's religiosity, overt piety, mana, pride, mada, haughtiness, andvita, filled with vanity, pride, and arrogance. Mohad grihitva asadgrahan pravartante shuchivrataha. So these ashuchivrataha, these people of impure practices, people who are of impure practices, engage in actions adopting bad objectives. That is, mohad, out of indiscrimination, asadgrahan grihitva, engaging in or adopting bad objectives due to an indiscrimination. So the running translation is giving themselves up to insatiable desires. Again, these people of demonic nature, filled with vanity, pride, and arrogance, adopting bad objectives due to indiscrimination, and having impure practices, they engage in actions. Again, people of demonic nature, they have insatiable desires. There's no end to the desire, and their only aim in life is to fulfill their desires from a selfish perspective. And they are full of vanity, pride of family, pride of lineage, pride of religiosity, etc., without any substance behind it. That is, they just make a show of being important people. They're full of pride and egotism, and they are arrogant. That is, comparing themselves to others as if they were great and others were much lower. So that doesn't really need much elaboration. It's rather clear. Giving themselves up to insatiable desires, filled with vanity, pride, and arrogance, adopting bad objectives due to indiscrimination, and having impure practices, they engage in actions. That is, they engage in their activity with all of this, with all of these characteristics. Adopting bad objectives. That is, they're not thinking of the welfare of others. They're not thinking of the long-term welfare of the earth. They're not thinking of upholding society. They're not thinking about the values of culture and civilization and trying to foster those. They only have selfish, narrow-minded, and destructive aims in mind. So adopting bad objectives due to indiscrimination. Or mohad also means due to delusion. So delusion and lack of discrimination, they come to the same, though the word moha means delusion. So through delusion, not understanding what is good for themselves. That is, when we do bad actions, we do it thinking that we're going to get some value from it. But the fact is, whenever we do anything that we know we shouldn't do, things that we know better than to do, we always end up with a reaction. We always regret it afterwards because it hurts ourselves. Yes, we may succeed in hurting others also, but not as much as we hurt ourselves. And so adopting bad objectives due to indiscrimination, we don't know what is good for us. And so we look at the immediate uh, enjoyment and not at the reaction that's going to come from that enjoyment. In fact, that's why people commit the most horrendous crimes, why somebody steals or murders, because they think that it's going to further their end, not thinking about the results. That's why the idea, whether, well, let me back up and say, I'm not speaking about what the punishment should be for what crime, but it's clear, and there's plenty of evidence showing that when people are out committing crimes, crimes of passion, they're not thinking, oh, if I do this, I'm going to get this punishment, so I better not do it. Or thinking that, well, the punishment's not that bad. The law isn't so much against me on this, so I might do it. No, they do it because they're thinking about the immediate gain from it. They're not thinking that, well, I might get the electric chair, or I might get life imprisonment, or I might get 10 years as opposed to 20 years or whatever. No, the punishment doesn't come into the calculation at the moment of committing a crime of passion, because you're absorbed just in the passion itself, out of delusion, and with the idea that this is going to bring me immediate good. And there's a strange facility of mind. And we've all seen it in ourselves in little things. We are not murderers and thieves and things like that, but in little things that we do, where we do something wrong, something we know we shouldn't do, little things that people like us might do. It's a strange phenomenon that when we want to do something we know we shouldn't do, there's a part of the mind that we can shut out that part of the mind which is telling us not to do it. It's a very strange part of human psychology. The part of our mind, it's in cartoons, in Western cartoons for children, you often see it. I don't know, I haven't seen modern cartoons, but when I was a kid, there'd be somebody about to do something bad. And then an angel would appear on one side and a demon, like a devilish figure, on the other side. And the angel would say, don't do it, Billy, don't do it, Billy. And the other one would say, go ahead and do it, Billy, go ahead and do it. We have that capacity to shut out the good voice, which is telling us not to do it, so that we do it even though we know we shouldn't. And after we do it, we immediately regret it. It's a very strange phenomenon that we have that power to block out the good voice in order to secure an immediate end that isn't going to last any time at all, and which is necessarily going to bring punishment. And we've all seen that in ourselves, at least when we were young and impulsive. Very, very strange thing. So giving themselves up to insatiable desire. So the desire is insatiable. It says, no, I want it now. Forget about the voice of conscience. Forget about all of that. I want it now and I must do it. Filled with vanity, pride, and arrogance, adopting bad objectives due to delusion, and having impure practices, they engage in actions. One last thing let me address in this, and having impure practices. That shows the importance of cultivation of good behavior. If we cultivate good behavior consciously, deliberately, for a higher end, not because of fear of society, but because I have understood that being a good person is a great value. Maybe I've seen someone who was a model of good behavior and I revered them, I looked up to them, and I want to model that myself. Or I've thought through the consequences of being a bad person and I realize, no, I want to be a good person. I want to manifest my higher nature. Then we practice being good. And that has great value. The habits that we form, the habits of action that we form, those come to support us in moments of weakness, when the mind says, well, maybe just once, or maybe, let me just try, and let me see if I can get away with it. Who cares, really? No, habits of good behavior, they come to our support. But here it's saying these people are those who have impure practices. That is, the ashuchi vrataha, impure practices. So those who have done so many bad things that they no longer have a conscience, then they have no protection. If I tell lies all day, every day, after a while, I don't even notice whether I'm lying or not. It doesn't even register on my mind that I'm lying. In the beginning, I may feel bad, but I do it because I'm getting away with something I want to get away with. But if I go on doing it, soon the very idea of telling the truth, because it's good to tell the truth, that disappears. And then you begin to think not only that you don't need to tell the truth, but those who do tell the truth and suffer because of it, then they're suckers. They're idiots for telling the truth. All they had to do was to lie, and they would be free from all of that trouble. So they're suckers for telling the truth. But those who have the habit of doing good, then that is a constant protection for them. So verse 11 says, Chintama parimeyam cha pralayantam upashritaha kamopabhoga parama etavaditi nishtitaha. So chintama parimeyam cha, having unlimited worries. Aparimeyam means without any measure, without any circumscribing. That is unlimited, having unlimited worries or cares. Pralayantam, which end only with death. Having innumerable cares and anxieties and worries which end only with death. That is, they're not temporary worries that I'm going to accomplish something and then the worries are over, but worries that go on and on and on until death. Upashritaha, that is, beset with these innumerable worries, cares that end only with death. Kamopabhoga parama, those who have the enjoyment of desire, desire as their highest end. Parama, that's their highest goal. Etavaditi nishtitaha, and feeling sure that this is everything. This is all that there is. So this verse is part of a sentence that ends with the next verse. It only ends with verse 12. So this is the beginning of the sentence in 11, and then it's ended in 12. So this part of the sentence says, beset as well with innumerable cares, which end only with death, engrossed in the enjoyment of desirable objects, and taking that as the highest goal, and feeling sure that this is all. So let me do 12 also, and then come back and do the two together. Asha pasha shatayr baddhaha kama krodha parayanaha ihante kama bhogartham anyaye nartha sanchayan. So asha pasha shatayr baddha, bound by hundreds of asha, hopes, expectations. So here it's translated as cravings, and that is a perfectly legitimate translation, but asha literally means hopes, expectations, and so that's a form of craving. Kama, krodha, parayanaha. Kama, lust, krodha, or desire also. Krodha, anger, parayana, those who have those as their highest resort. That which they resort to as their way of accomplishing things. So those who resort to desire and anger to get their way in the world. Ihante, they strive, kama bhogartham, for the enjoyment of pleasures, anyayena artha sanjayan, to amass, sanchayan, to amass heaps of wealth through foul means, anartha, or anyayena, by foul means. Anyayena, artha sanjayan, wealth, the collection of wealth. So bound by hundreds of shackles in the form of expectations, cravings, having lust and anger as their highest resort, they strive to amass heaps of wealth through foul means for fulfilling lust, for fulfilling their desires. So the two sentences together, or the two verses together forming one sentence, beset as well with innumerable cares which end only with death, engrossed in the enjoyment of desirable objects, taking that as the highest goal and feeling sure that this is all, bound by hundreds of shackles in the form of expectations and having lust and anger as their highest resort, they strive to amass heaps of wealth through foul means for fulfilling lust. So here they have desire, whether it's lust or other desires. They have lust as their highest aim, and anger as the servant of that desire. Anger, of course, is intimately tied to desire, as Sri Krishna shows in the second chapter of the Gita, because anger comes from frustrated desire. And so anger serves the accomplishment of desire. When there's an obstacle, when something gets in the way of the desire, then you blow up into anger. And you do that which you have to do to get rid of the obstacle. So having lust and anger as their highest resort, that is the things that that motivate them. And that motivate them to accomplish that which they're trying to do. So they strive to amass heaps of wealth through foul means. And wealth for what? To fulfill their desires. So they'll do anything. Foul means, anyayena, means by any means. Who cares about morality? Who cares about what society thinks? Do what you have to do to get ahead. Do what you have to do to get that which you want. The idea of these people is that nobody in this world is going to give you anything, so you have to go out there and take it. And if you have to rough people up some to get it, then go ahead and do it, because nobody's going to give it to you. And so don't care about other people's feelings, don't care about other people's rights and so forth. You just go get what you want. So that type of narcissistic behavior is what is being described here. The narcissism of a person who seeks to amass wealth, and that wealth not so that they can be generous and support charities and support the poor and so forth, but they want wealth only to support their intense, insatiable desires. They amass that wealth through foul means, getting it by any means whatsoever. They are bound by hundreds of shackles in the form of cravings, expectations, hopes. And here cravings is probably better than hopes, and expectations also is not strong enough for asha here. Because again, there's craving, hopes and expectations can mean you're hoping for good things for other people and so forth. But here it's really cravings for fulfilling your desires. So you're bound by hundreds of shackles in the form of cravings. So your mind is a burning cauldron bubbling with all of these cravings coming to mind, and you're constantly planning and looking for ways to fulfill your desires by any means possible. And then going back to the first part of the sentence, beset as well with innumerable cares which end only with death. So a person like this that's being described is going to have innumerable cares. There is no peace for such a person. We see certain people, and we all know people who are like this. We know people of our acquaintance, and we know people who are famous also, both that are like this. And in both cases, we can see that sometimes these people seem to be very self-confident. They seem to be on top of the world. They seem to have everything. They seem to prosper, while others, nicer people, better people, have a hard time in life. But no, that's not true. They may amass power. They may amass wealth also because they're willing to do anything to get it. And so they may be successful in getting it. But their minds are burning with the misery, even if they don't show it outside. And they don't usually show it outside. Usually they seem, again, to be confident and on top of the world. That's part of their show. Jung, the psychologist Jung, Carl Jung, one of his many great discoveries was that people show on the outside the opposite of what they feel inside. Now, that's not true of more spiritual people and more simple people. A good person gradually, and a spiritual person necessarily, becomes transparent. That is, they are outside what they are inside. If a person seems to be spiritual, but you find that they're not inside what they seem to be outside, then know that they're not really spiritual. They're hypocrites. But a spiritual person, and many just ordinary good people, simple people, are what you see is what you get. They're not hiding anything. But these other people are hiding. They're projecting the opposite of what they feel inside. And so, though they may project an image of somebody who's confident, who's on top of the world, who's in control of everything, domineering, and so forth, inside their mind is a mass of worry, anxiety, fear, and so forth. That's why oftentimes you find that people who know these people very well will say that actually they're very little people, they're very small people. They have no inner life, that they're consumed by fears, they're afraid of exposure, they're afraid of people finding out who they are, afraid of being discovered for the hypocrites that they are, the liars that they are, etc. And so beset as well with innumerable cares which end only with death. That is, people of this nature, there's no rest for them until they die. And of course, actually in death itself, there's no rest, because that carries them to a place where they have to suffer, and then they come back here in a poor birth. I don't mean monetarily poor necessarily, but a birth where they have little chance for rising higher, and so their suffering continues. Engrossed in the enjoyment of desirable objects and taking that as the highest goal, as they don't think about anything higher. They're satisfied with that, and yet they're not really satisfied with it because they're always trying to get more, trying to get more and more and more, and going back to the same well to drink again and again and again and again, because it never satisfies. And feeling sure that this is all, the objects of enjoyment and the accumulation of wealth and power, that's all that there is. There's nothing else. And so they look on others as poor fools for not going and getting the only things that matter. They look on them as losers because they don't get the things that are important in life. So again, taking the two verses together, beset as well with innumerable cares which end only with death, engrossed in the enjoyment of desirable objects and taking that as the highest goal, feeling sure that this is all, bound by hundreds of shackles in the form of cravings, and having lust and anger as their highest resort, they strive to amass heaps of wealth through foul means for fulfilling their lusts. So then we come to verse 13. Idam adya maya labdham, idam prapsye manoratham, idam asti idam api me bhavishyati punardhanam. So this is the Sanskrit in this one is very beautiful. Idam adya maya labdham. Today I have gotten this. Today I have accomplished this. I have gotten labdha. I have acquired this object of desire I have acquired today. Idam prapsye manoratham. That delightful object, manoratham, that delightful object I will obtain, like tomorrow. So today I've got this. Tomorrow I will get that. Idam asti idam api me. This one is mine. This one is mine. Me bhavishyati punardhanam. and this wealth will come to me. So this is mine, but this wealth will come to me. So I got this today, I will get that tomorrow. This is in my hand, and that wealth will come to me tomorrow. So that is the psychology of such people. Again, this doesn't require a lot of explanation because the meaning is clear. It's just stating how the mind works. I got this, so that's I have accomplished my aim, and I'm going to get that tomorrow. And tomorrow, what happens? Same thing. I got this today, and I'm going to get that tomorrow. And the next day, same thing. I got this today, I'm going to get that tomorrow. And that's the way life goes on for them. And of course, their senses become cloyed. Of course, their heart becomes hardened, because if you enjoy things over and over, too much enjoyment destroys the senses, destroys the appetite, destroys the power to assimilate and to enjoy that which you're having. We've all seen how if we have something that we really like, some food item that we really like, that we only get occasionally, and so one day it's served, we get it, and so we eat a serving of it, and it's very, very good. And we think, my goodness, that's so good. And so I'm full now, I really don't need more, but it's so good and I haven't had it for a while, let me take a second serving. So I take a second serving. The strange thing is that the second serving doesn't taste nearly as good as the first. That first one, when we haven't had it for a long time, the mind is fresh, the senses are fresh, and the taste is strong. By the second serving, we're beginning to feel, well, what was the use? I don't have that same enjoyment. We may even go for a third serving, just trying to get that enjoyment again, but it doesn't work. And so, but this, for such people, even though the senses become cloyed, that is, they become less sensitive from having too much, and they can no longer assimilate to the pleasure from these objects. They no longer get the same pleasure, but that's all that they know. It's all that they want. They think that this is everything, there's nothing else. And so they go again and again and again, trying to get that pleasure again. And so that's a miserable state to be in, but that's the state in which the vast majority of people exist. So 14 says, Asau maya hata shatrur hanishye chaparanapi Ishwaro hamaham bhogi siddho ham balavan sukhi. So this continues the same thought of the previous verse. The previous verse is quoting the speech or the thinking of a demonic person, that I got this today, tomorrow I'm going to get that. This is mine, and tomorrow that will be mine. And so here he says, Aso maya hata shatur. That enemy has been killed by me today. I've killed that enemy today. Hanishye cha aparanapi. And I will kill the rest of them later. I've killed this enemy now, and I'm going to kill the rest of them later. So it doesn't have to be killing, of course, but it means that I have destroyed in whatever way. I have gotten them out of the way. I have punished them, or in extreme cases, I have killed them. I've gotten rid of this enemy now, and I'm going to get the others tomorrow. That type of mentality, which again we see in people where they're filled with vengeance, filled with jealousy, filled with envy, filled with revenge, that I don't want anybody to enjoy that which should be mine, and everything should be mine. And so I don't want others to enjoy, and so I will destroy them. This enemy has been killed by me today, and I'm going to kill the others. Ishwaroham, I am the Lord. I am the master. I am the important one. I am the center of attention. I am the value. I'm the one that people should go to. I'm the one who tells people what to do. Ishwaroham, aham bhogi. I am the one who enjoys. I want enjoyment for myself. And if I have plenty, yes, I share with some other people and do it in a way to make me look even better by making a show of generosity. But if there's not enough, I want it to be sure that I get it. I get it first, and if there's plenty, then yes, sure, I can share with others and people will think I'm a good person. But first, I'm going to enjoy. Aham bhogi. Siddhoham. I am accomplished. I am accomplished. I've accomplished so much. Balavan Sukhi. I am strong and I am happy. So that idea that I have everything and I deserve to have everything. I'm happy and I deserve to be happy. I'm strong and I will show others that nobody is going to be stronger than me. I'm going to get rid of all of those who get in my way. I'm accomplished, and whatever I have is my accomplishment, even forgetting the fact that what I may have accomplished is because so many others have contributed to my accomplishment. But I take it as my accomplishment. I have done it. And forgetting about all of the people's shoulders I've stood upon and all of the people I've trampled over to get to where I am. And Ishwaroham, I am the Lord. So again, that enemy has been killed by me, and I shall kill the others as well. I am the Lord. I am the enjoyer. I am well established, or I am accomplished, mighty, and happy. So this is the sense of such a demonic person. Again, the narcissist being the extreme development of the demonic personality. And of course, the extreme development of the narcissistic person is one who is actually violent. And knowing the extremes, then again, as I said at the beginning, we can understand the middle. We can understand the middle spectrum where people have some of both of these qualities. The ordinary people, we ordinary people who have some good qualities, some bad qualities. Then we can understand that by understanding the two extremes. Again, then we come to verse 15, which continues that thought of the deluded person. Adhyobhijanavansmi konyosti sadrisho maya yakshye dasyami modishya ityajnana vimohitaha. So, ardhyo, aham, I am wealthy, ardhyo, I am wealthy, abhijanavan, I'm born of a high family, I'm high born. So I'm wealthy, I belong to a high born family. Konyosti sadrisho maya. Who else is there to equal me? There's no one who equals me. I'm superior to everyone. I'm wealthy, I'm highborn. Who is equal to me? Meaning nobody. Yakshye, I will perform sacrifice. And the implication is I will perform sacrifice with great ceremony so that everybody sees what I am doing. It's like people who give gifts, waiting to give the gift until the right moment when everybody is looking. Instead of quietly coming and giving a gift, but waiting until the moment when everybody is going to be aware of what you are giving, and then with great ceremony, giving what it is you have to give. So I will perform sacrifices. Dasyami, I will give in charity. So I will perform sacrifices, I will give in charity and put my name on everything so that everybody knows that I gave it. People in Sri Ramakrishna's life, you come across of this nature. Again, they weren't violent people or anything like that. They were not bad people, but they were not really good people also. People like Hazra, who would sit in front of Sri Ramakrishna's room doing japa so that people would think that he was a great sadhaka. That is, he would place himself so that everybody would have to pass by him and see him first before going to see Sri Ramakrishna. And then Mohimacharan Chakravarti, who would leave his tiger skin hanging on the wall at Sri Ramakrishna's room for no other purpose, as Sri Ramakrishna himself said, but that people, well, let me tell the way it was revealed, what he left it there for. Somebody came to Sri Ramakrishna and Dakshineshwar and said, whose tiger skin is there? And he says, oh, that belongs to Mohimacharan. He leaves it there so people will come here and ask whose tiger skin it is. And thus they will think that he's a great spiritual aspirant. And so that's the idea. I will give in sacrifice. I will give in charity, but let everybody know that I'm doing it. Mauritia, before the Sandhi, Mauritia, I will delight. I will delight. I will rejoice. I will party. I will have a good time and show everybody that I'm having a good time. That is, I will have a good time in front of everybody so everyone knows what an important, wealthy, and successful person I am. I will enjoy in such a way that they all know that. Iti ajnana vimohitaha. Thus they are deluded by non-discrimination, ajnana. Vimohita. Vimohitaha, deluded by ajnana, by ignorance or lack of discrimination. So the whole verse says, I am wealthy and high-born. Who else is there similar to me? I shall perform sacrifices. I shall give. I shall rejoice, again, in front of everybody for a show. Thus they are diversely deluded by non-discrimination, by indiscrimination, by non-discernment. So again, so that's the end of the first person speech of the deluded person. And then in verse 16 he says, Aneka chitta vibhranta moha jala samavrtaha prasakta kama bhogeshu patanti narakeshu chau. So aneka chitta vibhranta. So vibhranta, bewildered, confused. Aneka chitta, by various thoughts, by a mind which is running riot with so many thoughts. I remember a brahmachari when I was in training center. He wasn't a bad person, he was a good person. And I've often wondered what happened to him because he left training center itself. He was a Western brahmachari who had come to India. When I was second year in training center, he had entered the first year. And a brilliant person. But he used to say, my mind is like Vishnu's chakra. It just won't stop. It's constantly spinning at high velocity. And that was true. The poor man, he had no peace at all because his mind was constantly spinning. And that's what led him out of the monastery. Not particular desires and things, but he just couldn't sit still. So he left the monastery. He went to South India to join a Christian ashram. And then he left that and went and joined some Sufis. And then he came back to America and joined some Jewish mystical group. And then he joined another Hindu group. The last time I saw him or heard anything from him was in another Hindu group which he had joined. And each time he was getting different names in all of these different traditions. But the poor man, he just couldn't find peace at all because his mind was spinning like that. So that's aneka chitta vibhranta, deluded by or confused, bewildered by a mass of different thoughts. Mohajala samavrataha, samavrata, covered or enwrapped or trapped in mohajala, the net of delusion, that is caught by the net of delusion. The term or the image of a net is often used in Hindu spiritual thought. The karma jala, the net, caught in the net of activity or caught in the net of karma also, caught in the net of maya, caught in the net of delusion, etc. So here, caught in the net of delusion, prasaktaha, kama bhogeshu, attached to the objects, attached to the enjoyment of objects of enjoyment. Patanti narakeshu chau, they fall into a foul hell. Ashuchau narake, into a foul hell. So the running translation, bewildered by numerous thoughts as a result of being caught in the net of delusion and engrossed in the enjoyment of desirable objects, they fall into a foul hell. So that sounds pretty bad. And it is pretty bad. Uh, but as you know, in Hinduism, though there is the belief, and you don't have to take this if it sounds irrational, you don't have to believe anything that shouldn't believe anything that sounds irrational. But traditionally, it was believed that this world is not the only world. And we're not talking about geographically distant worlds in other galaxies or in other solar systems or anything. But this world, just as when we go to sleep and the dream world appears, so when we die, this world disappears and another world opens up. Right here, all worlds are right here. It's just that they're different frequencies of mental vibration or mental activity we perceive. Depending on the state of our mind, we see a different world. Just as right here, we see this world now, then we go into a dream world right here in the dream world, and then we go into deep sleep where there's no world. So there are higher worlds and lower worlds, worlds of higher enjoyment, where we go if we have been basically good people, where we can go. And if we've been very good, but not awakened spiritually, but very good, very charitable, and so forth, then we may go to a very refined world where there's great refined enjoyment and practically no suffering, and live there for a long time. Or if we've been very bad, then we go to a lower world where there's a great suffering. And if we've been very, very bad, we go to a horrible world where it's a terrible suffering. But all of these worlds are temporary. They only last as long as the uh, action that caused them merits. That is, there's a proportionality between your karma and the results that you get for your karma. So if you've been very good, you go to a heavenly world of enjoyment. If you've been very bad, you go to a hellish world of suffering and darkness. But we return from all of those worlds to this world to continue working out our karma. So bewildered by numerous thoughts as a result of being caught in the net of delusion and engrossed in the enjoyment of desirable objects, they fall into a foul hell. So let me do one more verse. Atmasambhava, Atmasambhavita stabdha dhanamana madanvitaha yajante nama yajnaiste dambhena vidhipurvakam. Atmasambhavitaha. Atmasambhavitaha means thinking very well of themselves. Thinking very well of themselves, self-conceited, thinking well of themselves. Atmasambhavitaha. Stabdha. Here that means, that can mean like astounded or something, but here it means haughty, stabdha, being haughty. Dhana, mana, madanvitaha, and filled with dhana, wealth, or actually dhanamana, the pride of wealth, the pride and intoxication of wealth. Dhana, wealth, mana, mada. Mana, pride, and mada, intoxication. Anvitaha, so filled with the pride and intoxication of wealth. Yajante nama yajnaiste. They, nama yajnais, for in name only. Yajante, they offer sacrifice. Dambhena aviti purvakam. Dambhena, ostentatiously, dambhena, and aviti purvakam, without any regard to the proper injunctions, the proper performance. Just, I'm going to do it, so I'm going to do it my own way. So self-conceited, haughty, filled with pride and intoxication of wealth, they perform sacrifices which are so in name only. That is, because they want name only, so they perform the sacrifice only in name. Because they do it with ostentation and without any regard to the injunctions for the proper performance. So this is again, the nature of those who are demonic in nature. So, of course, these we are not to internalize, but we are to understand them, that this is what we don't want. And again, all of, as the great German writer, mystic, polymath, he was a genius, Goethe, the great German Goethe. He said that I see the seeds of every human possibility within myself, meaning we can see within ourselves the seeds, the possibility, the potential for all types of people. That is, we can see within ourselves the potential for a murderer, the potential for a thief, the potential for a narcissist, the potential, because we have human nature, and human nature can express itself in all of these ways. And so when we read this, the demonic qualities, we're to recognize them so that we know when they come up, even in very minimal form within us, that no, that's not what I want. That's not going to do me any good. It's not what I don't want because the book tells me not to want it. It's what I don't want because it harms me. It does me harm. So when I see these things rising within me, even in a small, shadowy, seed-like form, let me try to get rid of them then and there. I don't want that. No, no, no. So when we see people who are of this nature that has been described tonight in the verses tonight, then we should thank those people for being exemplars of that which we don't want. We should be grateful to them for showing us that which we don't want. Because by seeing their example, it's much easier for us to know what to avoid. And so I mean that sincerely. We should actually thank those who exemplify that which we don't want. They reflect back to us these qualities and the devastating consequences of these qualities. So we know, no, that's not what I want, not what I want, not what I want. And then the divine qualities, which were dealt with earlier in the chapter, those we try to internalize and make our own. So next time we'll continue where we left off tonight. And so let me give announcements, and then if there are a question or two, I will take those. So for announcements, this Thursday is Thanksgiving, and so we will have no class on Thursday, no Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna class on Thursday because of that. But on behalf of the Vedanta Society of Greater Houston, I wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving, a happy and blessed and safe Thanksgiving. Then on Sunday, we will have the lecture as usual at 11 o'clock, and that will be on gratitude because, of course, of Thanksgiving weekend. And next week, Tuesday and Thursday, we'll continue with the Gita class, and we will once again have the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna class. So just remember that this Thursday there will be no class because of Thanksgiving. So are there any questions, Surenji? Yes, yes. So the question is, what about those people who themselves are not doing overtly bad things? They may be engaged in charity and other things, but they're getting benefit from people who are doing it for them, doing bad things for them. So they're collecting wealth and getting the benefit of other people doing bad things for them, but they are free to sit on top and appear as models of society. So they also will have to suffer. They too will have, if they don't know that something's being done in their name, of course, then that's different. But assuming that they know what's going on, or that they're not just ignoring it so that they can pretend to be ignorant of it, then they have to suffer the results of that action also. The karma comes to them as well as to the people they are having do the actions. So no, there's no escape in that way of having others do your dirty work for you. No, you're not getting out of anything that way. And so now there's a question from Subhash The demonic qualities are more for us rather than to judge others. Yes, that's right, Subhash. The demonic qualities are more for us so that we understand. So it's not to say, oh, there goes a demonic person, or that's a bad person, that's a bad person. No, it's not for that. My guru, a disciple of Holy Mother, he was once asked, Holy Mother said we shouldn't find fault with others, but how is that possible? And so Swami Vireshwaranandji said, no, it doesn't mean that you won't see the faults of others. If you have a clear and discriminating mind, of course you will see a difference between good behavior and bad behavior, but it means that you don't react to it. And so it's the same thing. This is not for saying, oh, this is a good person and that's a bad person. It's for recognizing the behavior within myself, and to thank the external person who models bad behavior as well as the one who models good behavior, because they are my teachers, they are my gurus. So yes, you're right. It's more for us than to judge others. So with that, I'll give a closing chant. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat. That infinite reality is full, perfect, and complete. This relative universe is full, perfect, and complete. From out of that infinite being, the fullness of this universe has come, and yet that being remains ever the same. Om, peace, peace, peace be unto us and to all the beings of the universe.